This is video number 3 of making a steam locomotive in Gmax for Trains Railway Simulator. This is as far as I got in the last session, and I made the saddle tank, approximate length of the boiler, may have to change that, but also I made the dome by using the spline tool, the line, and then the lathe tool to create the shape. And now what I'm going to do is, before I move on, I'm going to go into wireframe and just have a look there and see if there's anything I can lose in the way of segments or planes, such as on the saddle tank. I don't think there is. I already did that with as I made the dome. Remember, I took away all of those segments, planes there from that, so as to reduce the number of polygons that comprises that. But no, there's just about everything there that I can allow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide what I've already made, and I'm going to make the wheels, which I normally do first, but for some reason I didn't do it. So here we are. Let's have a look here. Just have a quick look. So we've got, what have we got there? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there are 8 spokes to the wheels. So just to make sure I get the right number of spokes, and believe me, it's easy to forget. Make sure you get texture correction on, and we're going to work in the side view. So I'll take that up to full size, and I know that the wheels are, including the flanges, are 3 foot 3 inches, and when I measured it, it was 3 foot 1.5 inches without the flange, and that's the bit I want to model first. And I'm going to use a tube for these, and I'm just going to go crazy with the tube first. Just make a tube, any old tube. Check over here, I don't need all those height segments. 18, well, let's be a bit more generous, just so that it looks a bit more like the smooth wheel. And I need to know the internal diameter of the wheel, that is the diameter from here to here, and according to my diagram here I've got in front of me, I've just put the ruler up against it, it's 27 mil. So if I come down to good old, come down to here, calculator, there we are, and 27, and it's divided by 9.56 equals 2 foot. So make a note of that on a bit of scrap. 2 foot, and then we've got 8 to 40, all that, and that's the inches. So what I do is I just take away the 2 foot, because I know that's a whole number, and I multiply that by 12. 9, I'm going to call that 10 inches, 2 foot 10. Okay, so 2 foot 10. So 2 foot 10 and 3 foot 1.5. So the radius, that's the diameter, so the radius therefore is 1 foot 5. So the smaller radius of the two radii, 1 foot 5, and then this should be 1 foot 6.75. 6.75, there we go. And that's pretty much the wheel. Now the position isn't any good because we're off the ground there, so we've got to get that position right to get that. Of course, so 1.675 is the radius, so therefore it should be 1.675 there, because the 0 point, look right in, there we are, the very bottom of the wheel has to be on that 0 baseline there. And what, 1 foot 8, well normally I give these a 6-inch width. Seems to be pretty standard, or close enough anyway. Still not too happy about the number of segments. I mean, a circle made up of straight lines is all very well, but how many polygons does that give us? 192. Yeah, it's probably enough. because once we've multiplied that by 6, plus we've got to add the flange in, it's going to make quite a high poly count. So let's have a look here. So that's what we're looking at as the beginnings of our wheel. Now what I want to do with this is to add the flange, and about the width of that, whether that's too much. It's quite difficult to judge on these. Let's take that back like I did before. Now of course the problem will be that I'll just have to, you'll see. Let's move that back on the Y axis, I think that's correct. Take that back to there. Ooh, yes, it's moving there, okay. Let's go up to, let's have a look here. Smooth and highlights and texture correction, make sure we're right. I'm just going to move that over a little bit here. So you have to keep up with me when I'm flicking back and forth. That's going up and down, that's no good. Maybe it's the x-axis, yeah, that's the one we want. So that is going to be, it's that width from there to there. It's a bit much, isn't it? So what we do, we take it down to 5. It says height, but it's just the way. Height and reason 5 inches. That's more like it. Okay, so we'll position that back at 0. There, I haven't bothered to I haven't bothered to do all the centering or anything like that. I've just left it as it is. So having got our basic wheel shape, we now want to, I think what we want to do is add the flange. So what I'm going to do for the flange is I'm just going to clone this first of all, and then I'm going to move it in the x-axis like this and give it a different colour, differentiate it. Now I know that the internal radius is the same, but here the external radius needs to be greater. In fact, what it needs to be is that's 1 foot 6.75, so that's the 3 foot 1.5 inches. So that needs to be 3 foot 3 inches. So that if I make that 1 foot 7.5, then the outer radius is now the radius of the flange. You'll see why I'm doing this when I get around to finishing it up. And what I'm going to do now is go up to here. I'm going to hide that, it's just getting in the way. Bring that back, pretty close in. Let's have another look at it, a bit close up, and in wireframe. Well, I'm going to alter the width of this one because that is thickness, because we certainly don't need that for the flange. And instead of 5 inches, I'm going to come down to 1 inch, which is going to be adequate. It's going to look okay. Let's take it on wireframe, and using this, I'm just going to move it into position. Zoom right in. I'm using the mouse button, mouse wheel, to zoom in and out by the way. If you don't. Okay, right, so now all we need to do is let's check we've got the right look of it. We should have, this should be now covering the whole of that face. Yes, see that this on the, it's the face on this, going to wireframe, it's that face in there which is now concealed by the outer face of the flange. How is that helping me? I'm trying to remember how to do these now. Let's have a look. Unhide by name. Unhide. Let's have a look at this. How thick that flange is. Yeah, it's about right, but I'm not doing. I've got myself lost here. because we want a little bit of a bevel on the flange. It's not quite as solid as that. That's quite a basic sort of flange. So look over here. And it's also, it feels to me like it's just standing above the 0. No, but it's not. It is sitting there. Okay. I think by the look of the diagram, that flange outer radius should be slightly greater. So at the moment it's 3'3". I'm going to put another ½ inch onto that all the way around, so that's another inch. So I'm going to add, I'll make that 7.25. That's the wrong one anyway. I've got selected. It's clever. It's this one that I want. I've already got 1.75, so I'll take it up another 8.5. 1.75 seems familiar. That's too much, isn't it? So let's knock it back 1/4 of an inch. With so much of this, it's how it looks can determine these final settings, because you never quite get exactly the right sort of finish that you would necessarily like. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to bring part of the flange into the wheel just to give it a bit of a bevel. I'm going to take the top back. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top back. You'll understand what I mean when I do it. So here's our tube, which is going to be the flange. There we are. And I'm going to convert that to an editable poly straight away. And I'm going to want to pick up all the vertices on the outside. So that means first of all going here, on the side facing onto the wheel rather. And then if we look here in wireframe, you'll see I picked them up on the internal inside diameter in this, although it doesn't show it here. All those are selected as well. So now I want to I would add them in. Which one is this one, isn't it? So lost them. Let's go back. There we are. They're selected. So I'm actually, I know it doesn't look like it, but I am actually deselecting polys. You've got to be on your, have your wits about you while you're doing this. So if you like to sit down and make models sipping on a glass of whiskey, you're going to make some mistakes. So I'm sitting here with a cup of coffee next to me. Right. Okay, so now we've got all of those, just the outer ones there, you'll see as it happens. Let's go up to here, and using our move tool, we just want to move in the x-axis, grab one of them, move it back, zoom in a bit. Something's happening, you can see. Move it back. There we are, so it's right on top. Go right in to make sure it's... So we've got a stack of them there, so if we have a look here, what we've now got, the shape we've now got, is the shape of the flange, except it's now also got to move the whole thing in a little bit because we're losing the... Oh, I know what I do there, just like that. We've got a gap here, the flange isn't right. We zoom right in. Oh, Gmax, you can't zoom right in on perspective. There we are, look, you've got that, that's what's wrong. So what I should do is to make these, expand these, I'll use the, what's it called, the uniform scale tool. So first of all I need to just select, just want to make sure we've got the, just select those vertices, let's make this full screen. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me I can do this much easier in another way, but there you go, this is the way I do it. And I'm going to take that and grabbing onto just one of the points, doesn't really matter which. Just going to enlarge that to where never very close. This little jumps about all over the place, but there we are. That's going to be close enough to close off up here. That you're not going to notice that. But what I can do is I can pick those ones up, and using I could just move them in like that. That's enough to conceal. So I'm burying that into the wheel, and there we are. So there we are. There we have the flange. Why all the messing about, you say? Well, one of the reasons is that because it's like this, I can actually lose some polys, and there's some more polys I can lose in a minute, which I'm going to do. And the first ones I'm going to lose, I'm going to go into wireframe, and on this one I can lose all the ones facing inwards there because they're obscured by the green. So let's make that into an editable poly. Select polygons, and now I'm just going to, I'm holding down the control key and just clicking all the way around. I think this seems very boring, but it's one of the things you've got to learn to do. Just be patient and reduce the number of polys which you're forcing trains to render. And now what I can do is there's more polys I can lose, because if you think about it, you've got polys here as well. On this one, let's have a look, see where our polys are. There's all these ones around here, and if I was to extend these ones so that they come up to here, then it would mean that the inside of the flange tube would be hidden by those. Let's just have a look. So at the moment we've got a gap there because we've brought those in. I'm not talking to the hat here, am I? No, don't even have a hat anymore. Okay, so let's have a go at that. So we're going to take these, let's go in the wireframe, pick up all that side, but we only want the internal ones. So I don't know if maybe if we see the right view on that. No, it doesn't make any difference. We'll leave it on the left. And on this one, what we're going to do, although it's not showing them as selected, there's all those outer ones have been selected on this end as well. So again, I'm just going to deselect. I'm holding down the alternate button. I think that's deselected, where I deselect all of these. Experience has shown me that you've got to do some of these individually, and you can do some of them in a set of 3 there on the vertical and the horizontal. I think I've already done those. Yeah. So now we'll take that means we've got the internal ones there selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them out till they're obscuring the. Just make sure. Yeah, I'm going to move in the correct direction. So I'll pick one up, move it out. All the rest are following along with you. Zoom in. You soon get an eye in as to you know when you're not. Oh, that's no good. It needs to be X. Jumped away from there. So if we look at this in smooths and highlights, you can now see that what we've got is the polys from the main part of the wheel coming out to the flange, but the other polys, these ones only come out to here. So these go to the far end, the inner side of the flange, and the outer ones go to the outer side of the flange. I hope that makes sense. It does to me, but I mean, you know. And I think also looking at it, just make sure. Let's Let's just hide that for a moment. Yeah. So this one now in wireframe. You just got to get your eye in with these perspective and what you're actually looking at. I'm still not 100% happy about this because it's something I'm doing it in a way which I think is alright, but it's not quite the way I remember doing it before. Still, we'll see what happens. Get rid of them and swing this round and get rid of these. So we should be okay there. So let's have a look in smoothes and highlights. You know, we've got no holes or anything there. And so I'm just left with, I've got a feeling there's another lot of faces I can get rid of there. So I've got this, oops, I've got this face on the back, and I've got this face. Is that everything I can get rid of? Yeah, I think it is. Undo, hide. And the only ones I can get rid of that. So that I think gives us the, anyway, that's it with the flange. Okay, right, now let's get on with the rest of the wheel. Let's have a look at smooths and highlights. Here we are. Make sure we've still got texture correction yet. Now, let's have a look at these. The spokes. I think these are, just look at the photograph as well. Yeah, I think that what I can do with those is I can make those with a box. But first of all, what I want to do is to just give me a marker of the center of the cylinder. This now obviously it's going to be a little bit more complicated than just a cylinder, because it's got the mounting down here that connects with the coupling rods here, or the driving, yeah, coupling rods. So I just want to do a cylinder which is about the right size in diameter. Now let's just make sure that these are centered, and we'll center that as well. You notice I'm keeping the flange and the wheel separate, and I'm just going to make sure that this is X, Y, Z. Okay, so that's centered in there. It just gives me, that's just a marker, that's all that is, that's nothing else. But I shall now make a box, and it needs to be about yo wide and about yo long, and made the wheels 5 inches, so these would be smaller, so I'm going to make it 4 inches in depth, and I'm going to go into wireframe, and I'm going to make it 2 length segments. And now, because I don't have any of the spokes vertical in the diagram, I'm going to sort of work it on the basis of guesswork. So I'm going to make sure that that is X, Y, I don't need Z, don't I need it much more, well no. Let's go okay, let's actually do it to the wheel itself, X, Z, okay. So we've just got a basic box here, nothing really fancy. I haven't bothered to measure it yet, but as long as it's long enough to go between the two, maybe. Let's have a look. inches, 4 inches deep. It's still a bit deep, isn't it? I think maybe 3 inches. 3 inches. 1.705 inches wide. That's probably okay. Let's centre and centre on the wheel, and let's just move it back a bit. Okay, so still not very happy with the size of that. I think it'll be okay. Size of that spoke. Okay, now I'm working. I think the width is okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually convert that to a poly straight away, and I'm going to pick up these two here, and first of all make sure that they're long enough. So that's my guide, and I'm going to actually increase the width. That's just in that X direction to give it a bit of a railway sort of look. And then I'm going to check on the smooth and highlights. I'm going to take this down, check again. Yeah, I know all you've got here is pixelated dots, but I'm looking at the drawing as well, the printout, and this is clearly opens out much more at the end here, and this gives this taper effect, which is obvious on the drawing here. I'll just take those up a little bit. Remember, the ends are going to be buried in the wheel, and now I'm going to spread that out. Spread out. Just got to keep an eye there that it's not too bizarre. I think that's about right. What we'll do is I'll bring those down just a little bit more, and that should be our spoke. Pretty much done. Let's go back and have a look. Yeah, that looks fine. And the next thing to do, of course, is to eliminate the bits I don't need to keep. So let's go in here and enlarge it, and have a look in wireframe, and let's pick up. You don't need that one. That's going to be buried in the center. It's going to be buried in the wheel. So we're reducing the polygon straight away. Now all we've got to do is to make sure that they're all in the correct position according to the diagram. But before we do that, I want to make this piece here. So the way I'm going to approach that is I'm going to come into wireframe, I'm going to leave our spoke just where it is at the moment, and I'm going to make two circles, which I found to be the easiest way. What size is that? Radius. I think it should be about 5.5 inches. It's 5.6 at the moment. So here I'm just going to draw a circle, and I want a radius of 5.5. There we are, and I want it centered on our wheel. Don't worry about the Z position at this stage. And at that point I'm going to lose my cylinder, and I'm going to have to extend that slightly. And now I want to see the smooth highlights, so I'm going to bring a copy of this and in the X axis, bring it over and drop it down, reduce the diameter. I'm going to guess the diameter at about the radius at about 3 inches. That's about right, I think. And I'm going to center it on the where the diagram shows that pin, just by eye. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these up to form the center piece of the wheel, and I'm going to do that by converting these to editable splines, because eventually I'm going to extrude this, and those editable splines I can then lose some segments. That segment there can go, and in the same way this segment here can go, and I'm going to put in 2 lines. I'm going to take the line from there to about there, and another line from there up to about there. I'm right clicking to end the line, by the way, and those we've already got vertices, so it's already something I can modify. And now I need just to go into here, vertex, and I'm going to refine this. So let's go full screen so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to stick a vertex in there, and a vertex in there, and I'm going to delete. Oops, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn refine off, and I'm going to select and delete that segment, and I should do the same on this one. Vertex, refine, one in there, one in there, turn off refine, go over to segment, take out those there, and now what I want to do is to join them up. So that segment, that line there, vertex needs a bit of adjustment. Bring it over. Just love the way it is now. And it redraws when it gets back there. That one's all over the place. So vertex, and along. There we go. What are we doing here? Well, actually, that one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that back a little bit. Drop it down. Come on. And then, what are we doing over here? Not too bad. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is join them all up using the attach, and they'll change colour. Okay. So they're now all attached, but they're not joined. So again, go into vertices, and you've got to weld them together. And now we've got to make them look right. Not that one. Not sure I like that one bit. Stick with it for the moment. Just doing it by eye, I don't know. Look. Ah, it's close enough. No, I don't like it. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is, if I look at the vertices, I'm going to make a copy of this, This bit I think is okay. That's the bit I want to carry over to there, I think. And so I'll delete all the other segments. So that's the shape, and what I'm going to do is then make sure I'm on, yes, rotate it on, in this case it's the y-axis. I'm going to rotate it round, come around 180 degrees. Let's bring it back over here. That's where it's going to go in. And I need to rotate it again on the z-axis this time. It's about 90 degrees it needs to go in. That's right. And let's bring that over here. So you can see what I've done. And now all I'm going to do is take this one, remove the two segments I don't like, and the rest is pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to move this into position. Okay, and I'm going to join it, attach it. I've got a gap there, so let's see if the welding will eliminate the gap. Yes, it has. Got a gap here. So refine it by adding in a vertex here. Take out this segment. And I'm going to pull this vertex over, so it's not going to be absolutely identical, but hopefully it's going to be close enough to fool the eye, which I think is all you can get away with at times. Yeah, thank you. That looks better. That does look better. I think you'll agree. So there we are. There's this main element. If we have a look at it there, and I want to make it just that little bit deeper than the wheel spoke. So we'll extrude it. Make sure it is extruding. Yes, there we go. And I can't remember how far I extruded this now. About 3 inches, wasn't it? So we'll make it, we'll extrude it 3.5. There we are. Fairly large, isn't it? It's quite ponderous. I think it's right. I think so. And you can see that it absorbs the spoke. And now the way to just make sure that that's centered to the object. And now I'll have some coffee. There goes coffee. And now I'm going to do something which I don't think I've shown before. I'm going to center the pivot using to align it to the wheel X, Y, Z. So that means that the pivot around which this piece rotates here is the center line of the wheel, not the center line of the mesh. And to make it even more obvious, I'm going to do the same with this one. So first of all, make sure it's aligned to the world, and now I'm going to change the pivot, affect pivot only, not the whole mesh, and I'm going to align that X, Y, Z, and it jumps up to the middle position of the wheel. The reason I'm doing this is because in order to get these spokes in the same position as in the diagram, I need to rotate this around the center of the wheel 45 degrees. So let's have a go and see if that'll work. It would be amazing, wouldn't it, if it worked first time. First time ever. And I like to work in wireframe when I'm doing this, so I can see what I'm doing. And it needs to rotate now on the z-axis 45 degrees. Yeah, running round, it's nice, isn't it? I think I'm right there, isn't it? 45 is the correct one. No, it's not correct. It must be 35 degrees after all. Why is that? No, it's 30 degrees. Let's type that in. There we are. Now, although it doesn't immediately align with this, it's going to be suitable. It's going to be the same separation apart as these spokes here, because the next one is if we were to copy this, and instead of it being a plus 30 degrees, we turn it to minus 30 degrees. It will make the one over here. And if we clone that one and make it minus 90 degrees, there we go. 1, 2, 3. It's not going to make enough. That's not right. That's not going to be enough. So we'll delete. Where are we? We'll delete this one and this one. So we basic maths, for goodness sake. How many have we got? We've got 8 into 360, which is 45 degrees, isn't it? So why is that not in the correct position? So if I do 45 degrees, 8 spokes, 1, 2, it is 8 spokes, 10 or something daft like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we are. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's got 360 degrees, so it's 8 into 360 gives me, well, 4 8s are 32, and then we've got 40 degrees left, so 5 8s are 40, that's 45 degrees apart. And it suddenly dawned on me what I should be doing. They are 45 degrees apart, but of course they're not 45 degrees from that position. So let's go down here, and I've got 29.9 for some reason, so let's put that back to 0, and in fact what we do is we move it to 22.5. There we go. And now we can clone it again and add 45 to that, which would make 67.5. There it is. Yeah. Oh dear. You can see why I didn't study maths at school, indeed anywhere else. So we're now going to clone that and move over to there. There we are. In fact, we can clone that. Clone. Okay, and put a 0 in front. That gives us that one there. And now 67.5 plus 45 is 112.5. So if we clone that one again, okay, that's 112.5. Oh, this is easy. Plus 45 again is 157.5, so we'll clone it again. There it is. And if we clone that one, and because they've all had their pivots set to the center of the wheel, that's why they're positioning themselves in that way. And just take it off there. And there we are. And if we have a look at our wheel, we finally managed to make the wheel. Believe me, it does get easier. And although it does look a little bit odd at the back, but that's going to be all hidden by the frames. You won't see much of that at all. Now there's a few other things I've got to do, and I'm going to do that now as part of this tutorial, even though we're up to the 45-minute mark. It's amazing how time flies, isn't it, when you're enjoying yourself, making a big hash of making a wheel. And what I want to do here is to make the counterweight that's mounted in the wheel that actually covers over some of the the ends of these three spokes here. So it's this counterweight, okay, which the spokes actually go into. So what I'm going to do there is, how am I going to do that? Yes. So basically what I'm going to do is create a circle. I like using splines. Let's make a circle, and it should have a radius of, what was the internal radius again now? 3 foot 1.5 is the diameter, therefore 1.5. It's not right, it should be 1.6.75. I think that's right. It looks far too big, doesn't it? My maths again. Let's position it anyway. See where we are. Z. Well, that's all over the place. I don't know what's happened there. So we'll cancel that, and we'll centre pivot there, still correct? Oh, it's still correct. Anyway. Take this and have another go. And I did explain in these that it is a warts and all demonstration, so that's clearly not what I want. It's the interior of the wheel, which I can't remember what that was now. Is it 3 foot? Let's have a look. No, it wasn't. Oh, there we are, 2 foot 10. Of course, because I was allowed for the thickness of the wheel. So I made the circle like that, and then I want to cover it something really strong. I'll color it red, and then just have a look at the smooth and highlights, and I'm going to clone the wheel, the circle rather, and I'm going to bring it in, knock it down to a foot, a little bit more. You can see, I think, where I'm going with this. There we are. And now if we go to wireframe, we've got that in red, and if I pick that up, and I know I've got it in red, and that, okay, those are the two circles. Normally what I now do, if you have a look here, the circles are buried inside the rest of the mesh I've done, so I'm going to hide that's the circle. I don't want to hide that, so let's see if I can pick up. There we are. I'm telling you the difference because of the colours. I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to, well, that's about all I need to hide really, just so I can see what I'm doing. Smooth highlights, let's have a look. And just have another slurp of coffee. Okay, so looking at these, the weights, they extend from there to there. So wireframe, draw another line below. Just get it in a bit closer. So I want to go parallel. There to there, and down here from here. Here. Right, and we turn our circles into edges for splines, and this one as well. And I picked it up because it's that colour. Editable spline, and I'm immediately going to add a vertex in. Where are we? Refine. Here. And down here. And on this one, again, vertex, refine. And I can now lose some segments. Oh, that will find them, I shall lose them. Delete, 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 and keep deleting. So I've got that bit, I've got the 2 lines, it's pretty clear what I'm doing. And if I look at segments here, I shall delete that one, that one, that one, and that one. And you need to get used to looking at these meshes through each other in the wireframe mode. But it will happen. So now I'm going to attach these and this one. And then I'm going to take the vertice and I'm going to take that off and I'm going to select them all. And they're far enough apart, I think, but just to make sure, I'll take the limit down to 1/10 of an inch, and they should all weld together. They're not. Oh joy. Weld, weld. Why not weld? I think I know why. And it's a silly mistake that I've made repeatedly. There we are. If I lose everything, if I hide, if I just leave that, I'll hide all of the unselected, so it's everything's just leaving that. And now if we look down, or look at the side view of that, what I've done is I've got the circles have been centered on the previous mesh, and the lines have been drawn in their normal place, which is on the 0 mark. So I've actually got a model which is an outline which is far too wide. These should all be stacked up together. You'll see what I mean. The reason why those won't weld is because they're too far apart, and we don't want them like that anyway. What we want them is on the 0 line. And the irritating thing is, one of the irritating things is that you can't do multiple points inside a spline like that. You see, it won't let you set a figure, but if I just take one and I think that's on, and I 0 it, I'm not going to weld the point at the moment, just moved it over. No, that's picking up more than one because it's the other side of the circle. There we are. And now we've just got these two to move over. I'll say no for the moment. Normally I would just say yes, because I want to show you. But once I've done that, now they're all, it's just a 2-dimensional outline. There's no third dimension that it's spread out. So now when I pick up those, and I tell it to weld, it will do so. There they are, they're all welded. And if I tell it to extrude, there's our shape, and we're going to leave it at 3.5, because that's going to be the same width as the center there, but not as wide as the wheel itself. And of course, because I've unhid everything else is shown as well, so I'm just going to hide that and that. I'm picking them up separately because I might pick that one up as well. So there we are. So that, I think, is our wheel. Now there are some other things I can do to save poly, and I'll do those straight away, so not to forget. On our way, there's all those faces around there. Look at all that. That's a lot of polys. So having extruded it, I'm now going to collapse it to a poly, and I'm going to select polys, and I'm going to take all these out. Now you can do this by selecting them in some quantity, holding down the control button, but I get a certain satisfaction of selecting each one and hitting the delete key. That gives like a zap in it. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's fine. And now that also means that what we can do is we can lose the ends of these 3 spokes. So let's go back into wireframe, because we've got weight, you know, that's all buried inside the wheel. So we've got 4 polys there we can lose, because we've got that one. And we've got that one. And tell it yes to delete any vertices that are hanging about on their own. And we're going to delete that one, yes, and that one, yes. So that's those saved. And it doesn't matter about the rest of it projecting into the weight, counterweight. Take out that one and that one, yes, thank you. And what else can we lose? There we are. That one and that one. And then go down to here, and we're going to delete some polys there. So this means if we save 4 polys on each of these spokes, that means we save 12 polys altogether, which is just that little bit easier for the graphics engine in Trains then to produce this image, just that little bit fewer number of polys. I mean, this will still have quite a number of polys if we have go into smooth and highlight. And let's count up the number of polys. 434, and we've got 6 of those. That's going to be quite a high poly section of the model, but we should be okay because that's going to actually, with those 6 wheels and the cylinder and the pistons and the driving rods and the coupling rods, those are going to make up the model of the driving bogie, which is separate from the main model. And but we'll come to that when I come to assemble the whole thing. Right, now there was something else crossing my mind then, but I'm trying to remember what it is, and I'm failing to remember what it is. Oh yes, I know. If we now, oops, main toolbar please. If we now go in, have a look at our wheel, and we have a look at these bounding boxes. That's what these white things are. They're the boundaries of each mesh that makes up the wheel, and you want to always have them like a picture frame, so square, rectangular, whatever, but with the horizontal and vertical. These ones over here, for example, this one is not horizontal or vertical, it's all off to one side at an angle because we rotated it around. So the next thing we need to do is to make sure that those are going to be okay. So this is where this comes in, reset XForm. So you watch this over here while I click on reset XForm, and there we are, and it's turned it into the correct orientation. And that's really important when you come to Trains, that you XForm, reset the position of it, and you can just, you only have to do that once, hopefully. Reset, reset, reset. There we go. Otherwise, the apparent position will not be correct. That is, its position with regard to the I'm just looking in there because I think there's, I'm wondering if that is got enough length to it. No, it doesn't look. Those all need a little bit extra length to them. If I really want it, in fact, what I can do, we can lose more polys. What I can do is I can select this one. Now it's got XForm. You won't be able to edit it while that is still up the top here in the editing, so you need to collapse that again, pick up the vertices here, and if you're a little demon with this position, you bring it right the way down here and just put it there. And now I can, not that one, I can just delete that, and we've got the same effect. And that doesn't look like it, but it really is. There we are, that's what it really looks like. You always get this effect on the... So I can do that with that one there, and I can do it with that one there. I can't really do it with this one here. Well, maybe I can, yes, I can bring that down there and then join it up. So I'll show you how to do that. So we come over to here, and let's go into wireframe, and we'll take that poly, those polys there, and grab them up and bring them right the way down, and then you've got to zoom in and make sure you're in the right position. Now, why am I got the wrong width there? You see, I'm just being too clever now, because that width there is necessary. I can't save spaces. I can't save polys in this way, and I can't lose that one either. I'll just track that one back. There we are, and that's because that is not a rectangle there. That's a, what is it? A trapezium or something. So I've got to keep those. I can't lose. If these were the same width all the way, then you'd be alright. But I still need to pull these in here, because you can see that they're not completely buried into the center. Just need to collapse that one. I'm just adjusting this by freehand. You get used to doing this, trust me. It should be alright. This one down here was okay, but this one wasn't. That one's okay, that one's okay, that one's okay. There we are. So if we look back to there, now it looks right. Okay. Good, so the next thing to do is to position it correctly, and to do that, what we have is to pick up our wheel and to group it. Now, this is a 3-foot gauge that we're working from, so we want to go give ourselves a 3-foot gauge marker. We don't need extra there. Well, the only position, or the only dimension of any value on this is 3 foot, and we want to make sure that that's centered, and then we want to position it. I tend to 0, 0. There we are. And we can then go up here, pick up our wheel, and move it over. And make sure that's the point there, that one there. That's on the 3 foot. So the track is going to be sitting in there, the rail is going to be sitting in there. And then what we can do is we can clone this, and that was at 18003. I'll put 8.003. Okay, clearly not right, except when we rotate it, and it's still not right. And that's because the center of the group isn't the center. If we were to do this, then the actual center, it would make it, still makes it 18003. There we are, 8.003, and there it is, it's moved into position. So let's have a look at it. Here we have the first of our wheel sets. So I've just got to put an axle in that, and then we're going to duplicate them out. So let's put an axle in, and we know how long is this video now. Oh, it's quite a long time. It's over an hour and 5 minutes. Hope you're enjoying this. And there's something not quite right here, because we've got the position isn't correct. 26329, and that one. So if we move it over, that's not the one. That's the one. There we are. And you can see they're overlying, and they're quartered already, which is a really great help, because there should be 45 degrees separating them. Now the only other thing I need to do with that group, the second group, is to ungroup it, and I'm going to reset the X form on a whole lot, and I'm going to center the pivots on all of those, just to make doubly sure that they're correct. And then let's group them up again. There we are. And let's just check the center pivots on all of those. That's the group, so if we ungroup, check the pivots. I can't stress how important this is. Now, there was an errant one that needed to be sorted out, because it really does make a massive difference when you get into trains. You just won't make the model will be awful. So I just want to make the it won't be awful, but it'll be all over the place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the two wheels at the moment, and I'm just going to bring up the smooth heights, and it's this is our axle. So that's a simple enough cylinder. It doesn't have to be 5 height segments, and it doesn't have to be, I think 12 is probably enough. Just make it nice and big and long. And now we're going to reduce the radius down to, well, that's 6 inches. No, it's still too big. 4, that's an 8 inch, no, 3, 6 inch axle. It's about right, I think, yes. And it needs to be, well, let's make it 3 foot. Let's make it 4 foot long. And center up the pivots and make sure they're on the 0 mark, and then bring back our wheels. Where are they? Hidden, unhide by name. It's those two groups there. Unhide, there they are. Let's give the axle a different colour so we can actually see what it is. Here it is, and it's clearly not positioned vertically or horizontally correctly. So we'll center it again on the wheel X, no, not the X, Y and Z. There we are. And that's it. And it's actually not long enough yet, I don't think. Or it may be too. It's either not long enough or it's too long. I can't remember which. It's probably too long, actually. Let's have a look. 4 foot. Let's cut it down to 3 foot 8. Now it's disappeared because we've got a center again, and then we've got to adjust this. There we are. We've got to move it back to the 0 position. There we are. So it's just showing, because the pin that comes out here is the one that goes to the coupling rods. So if we now pick up our two groups and the axle, and we group them again, so we've got groups within groups, and now you can see where I'm going, I hope, with this, because what I'm going to do is clone the whole lot and put them into position. Now you might say, why haven't you bothered to texture this before making the extra wheels, because you'd have them all textured then. And that, of course, is the best thing to do. So let's get that into position. There we are. If you know the actual wheelbase, then we can use that. Clone. I don't think I've ever done that. There we are. And if we look here, the reason why I haven't textured it is because I wanted to show you this way of working. Let's bring back the other bits that we've made so far. There we are. You know, it's beginning to get there. And but what I will do is, when I come to texturing, I'll actually go in and just texture one wheel and repeat what I've done. That is, cloning it, reversing it, put it into position there, deleting that, and then cloning those along. Sounds like a better, sort of long way round for a shortcut, but it's partly because I wanted to show you how these are going. Also, at times, I have to admit, I forget to do it, and I just do it like this, and then I have to redo it. But there we are. So that's the conclusion of this lengthy section of how I'm making this loco, but at least we now have the wheels in place. So the final thing to do before I sign off is to save the file, which I should have been doing much more frequently earlier on, and to save the other copy. So I've always got two, because sometimes one of them gets corrupted. And so that's it. So the next stage, I don't know, what shall I do next? Well, maybe I'll put in the coupling rods and start with the piston, something like that, or maybe I'll do the cab, see what the fancy takes me. But gradually building it up, and going to get there, and maybe I'll even bring in some materials and see where we can go from there. So that's the end of this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you found this of interest, and it's free. There's no obligation whatsoever. You're not sort of signed up for anything for life or anything like that. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your email is or whatever, anything else. It just means that I get an extra subscriber, which is always nice to have, because it feels like there's somebody actually out there interested. Please leave a comment if you wish, or comments if you've got any queries or questions. Give me a thumbs up if you wish, and look out for the next one.